Welcome to a special edition on this Monday of Mac and Bradshaw. Those of you who have been around long enough, or at least a long time, would remember when Bradshaw and I did a show together on 98.3 called Mac's World with Bradshaw, or starring. I think I said you were starring Bradshaw, didn't I?
I don't know. That station's gone to hell since. Wow.
And so Bradshaw and I have been talking about maybe getting together every once in a while and doing a show. Phone lines are open. We assume there's some people who will be listening to this live. We know that there will be people who pick it up on podcast, and that'll be available at webcast1live.com. But the phone lines are open at 1-855-244-0077. Today, we've got like three things we want to talk about. We want to talk about Kent Sorensen and that whole mess.
Oh, he's great, isn't he?
Want to talk about racism in Iowa. But I want to start with this butter cow thing.
Oh, geez.
Are you okay with that? Because I didn't tell you about that up front.
I'm fine discussing the butter cow. What I'm not fine with is that's continuing to be a symbol of the state.
Well, the Animals for Liberation, the group called Iowans for Animals for Liberation, last night hid in the agricultural building, and after everybody was gone, they jimmied the lock on the cooler, I guess.
Freezer, yeah.
And poured red paint representing blood all over the butter cow and put Animals for Freedom. And that's an organization that you may recall has, they broke into the University of Iowa labs a few years ago and let a bunch of animals go. They let a bunch of mink go. I guess they're not called minks. They're called mink in a farm out in eastern Iowa. And they go in and break the law. And by protesting against the death of animals, they break the law and usually lie, cheat, and steal. Did you see it that way?
Yeah, they're one of the best friends Farm Bureau has.
How do you mean by that?
Because these groups make it easier to, put a facade on bills that actually help. Because when you say you want to do an ag gag bill, because look, no one is impressed by turning the butter cow red, and by 4:00 this afternoon, it'll be mostly forgotten.
I disagree. It's going to be lead story.
Until someone, tomorrow at 4:00, it'll be forgotten. 24-hour news cycle. But what actually, advances the cause, and we use this term very broadly, animal rights. Well, as in, I
just think that's a joke.
Don't treat them particularly poorly. We don't need to go out of our way to electrocute their testicles or something like that.
Okay, but
whereas the ag gag bill is probably the prime example. Seeing downer cows shoved into processing plants and watching baby chicks tossed into the grinder, that actually brings awareness to what factory farming actually is. Now, that's not to say you can't support factory farming, but at least we can have an honest discussion, and it doesn't look like, the facade, of the family farmer wearing his overalls and milking the bulls at 6 a.m.,
you don't
is a
milk
cardboard
bulls.
Cutout.
You milk female cows, just so you know.
It's all fun and games till Mr. Hand shows up. Point is... that's a cardboard cutout these days. And behind that is Monsanto and ADM. That's where a majority, at least, of our farming policy comes from in this country.
So how do we know that it's not those organizations that are doing these stunts to get the press to support their bills? I mean, that's not beyond any party or any politician. If I'm Farm Bureau and I want to get this passed,
a red butter cow is a false flag.
I'm just saying
that's a little in Alex Jones territory for me.
I'm just saying, if I'm Farm Bureau, and I'm not Farm Bureau, and I'm not saying Farm Bureau would do this, but if there's an organization out there that wants to make their opposition look bad, conquer and divide and conquer.
I mean, it's amateur hour. We can't make an argument. We can't actually do something. We're going to chuck red paint for awareness of what? That a bunch of hardcore ecology are schmucks. Well, yeah, okay.
But
you made your point. Congratulations, you win.
so is it about, because these guys are talking about liberation. They're not talking about the conditions that they live under before they go to slaughter. They're talking about vegan. Let's not kill these animals anymore for food.
Tens of thousands of years of human, not to be offensive to your audience, but tens of thousands of years of human existence, ever since we gave up our hunter-gatherer ways, disagrees with them. And while they may want to go back to that, it's not going to happen any more so than we're going to, Unabomber style, give up our modern technologies. So,
do you think that? Here's animal cruelty to me. Animal cruelty is the dog locked in the car with the windows up in the Walmart parking lot for 2 hours. It's the dog that is chained to a steel post in the front yard with little or no water in the middle of a 100-degree day. Animal cruelty is when you have someone who kicks, beats a cat or a dog or another animal that they have domesticated and they have no way to defend themselves. Whether you're sticking a cattle prod up a cattle's behind to get him to move into the slaughterhouse a little quicker, I don't know how we stand up and say that's animal cruelty.
Well, and that's where you draw the line. I probably draw the line somewhere differently. And people who, wear lettuce and stand outside of fur stores, they draw the line somewhere else. We're all going to have our own line as to what is animal cruelty. The reason I oppose ag-gag bills is because what they want to do is cut off the debate before it even happens. Look, you can choose to.
But what's
to eat,
the debate?
You can choose to eat, the cage-raised chicken if you want, but you should at least have all the information. You should know what it's being shot up with. We should know how it's raised, and we should know the practices behind that. I like to know something about what I'm taking into my body, and if I choose to eat Taco Bell, and God knows I love Taco Bell, that's my decision, and it is an informed decision. Folks like Monsanto and ADM would prefer we not have that discussion in the first place and just fall back on, this image of, the family farmer, American Gothic, and just rely on that and leave the rest to them.
Well,
did you think I was actually going to come out and say, yeah, paint the cow red?
No, I didn't think you were going to say that.
Because I think those people are silly.
I just think that
and counterproductive.
There's so much air to breathe. There's so much time to spend. There's only so much passion. And great PR gig on the part of this Animals for Liberation. You got to give them credit.
I don't think
Ground Zero.
It's a horrible PR gig.
Why? In the middle of the Iowa State Fair, the greatest, the icon of the state fair, which is the butter cow, you throw red paint to represent blood on it.
It turns people against you.
But they got the publicity, and these people aren't smart enough to understand that it's bad publicity.
Well, and I agree. Ultimately, they are self-defeating.
Absolutely. All right.
Next,
Kent Sorensen.
Oh, jeez.
You made a comment in the previous show with Mr. Fallon that you thought he single-handedly has destroyed the Iowa caucuses.
No, he's another point of failure in the system, I guess. Again, most outside Iowa, on the political, pundit side, have, to one degree or another, some very forcibly, others just asking questions, because some people say, Fox News style, does Iowa deserve to be first in the nation? And even as an Iowan, it's a legitimate question. Are we very representative of the nation as a whole? No.
Really? Why not?
Look at our demographics.
Well, we're highly educated, but yet we have incredible blue collar jobs with John Deere and with Firestone and with other companies.
Very, very, very white.
Well,
and most of the rest of the nation doesn't have a ag subsidy based economy like we do. Some would argue that because of the Iowa caucuses, and you're going to laugh, but there's definitely at least a very indirect link to childhood obesity, and that is the amount of corn subsidies we get to curry favor in the state of Iowa leads to increased corn production. We don't even know what to do with all the stuff. So there comes your high fructose corn syrup that's subsidized to the point where it's cheaper than sugar and gets shoved into absolutely everything these days. It's why we have ethanol. Would the ethanol industry exist without the Iowa caucuses?
I have no idea.
And again, these are just
I just don't.
These are issues to put out there. We can discuss whether they're valid or not, but whether you're pro ethanol or anti ethanol, without the Iowa caucuses, it's a dead issue.
But why? Who would be better than Iowa? And why does anybody get the right to kick us out of first place? We haven't done anything wrong.
Well,
we followed the system.
That's the
how
whole
many
point.
presidents have we elected? Barack Obama won in Iowa.
He did.
Everybody thought it would be Hillary.
And John McCain skipped Iowa and won the nomination.
Yeah, but that's John McCain.
Mitt Romney skipped more or less Iowa. He dropped $10 million here in 2008, got nothing for it. Pretty much skipped the state in 2012 and won. So our predictive abilities, at least on the right, maybe the right would be better off if they actually did a caucus, if they did it Democrat style.
Meaning what?
Where you actually go into a gymnasium and you stand there and people move around. And yeah, we sometimes laugh at the Kucinich people, but at the end of the day, we want them to come into our line. Maybe the Republican Party would be better off doing it that way, and maybe you wouldn't have some of these atypical results. But with the Ames straw poll being nothing but a huge money sink with no predictive powers at all.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm with you on the straw poll, but I'm not as solid as I am on. I don't believe any other state in this nation can represent the United States of America better than Iowa when it comes to what do you call it? Door-to-door politics.
Retail politics.
Retail politics. I don't think anybody does it better than us. 99 counties, 99 county seats.
Well, the argument is to have it move around. So let's say we have it in, 2016. Well, in 2020, it's going to be in Maryland. And in 2024, and the kind of those head states, you have your Iowa, South Carolina, New Hampshire, and then any number of states that are looking to jump ahead of the line.
You'll go 50 years without ever a repeat. You realize that?
Well, no.
If you open it up, why can't Hawaii have it?
Well,
why can't Alaska have it?
That's the whole point. Is you have those 3 or 4 starter states that are right now Iowa, Nevada, South Carolina, New Hampshire, right? And that group is what moves. So, yeah, someone's going to be first, but someone will be second, third, fourth, and that's where the money goes. And that's another big part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, what does this state make?
A lot.
Starting next year. Starting next year.
Yes. Starting this year.
No, really.
You've got candidates out the Iowa State Fair this year.
Yeah, but it's
you got
next
Joe
year.
Biden coming to Tom Harkin's steak fry.
That's like a send off
Yeah.
salute. But yeah, they are
20 years too late.
They are looking ahead to 2016. But I mean, the real campaign starts next year. That's when we're going to be absolutely inundated from pretty much 1 year from today through Iowa caucus time,
which is January of 16. Right?
Or December.
Well, yeah.
Or, it could get pushed up again unless that gets really swatted down hard. And so far, it hasn't. But,
all right, but
that's a lot of money.
But tie that back to Kent Sorensen.
That Missouri's not going to get, that North Dakota's not going to get.
Why does that tie back to Kent Sorensen? Why does, and by the way, I should just ask it, in a 60-second podcast or less, how do you see the Kent Sorensen thing? Did he break the law?
Well, it's obvious he broke Senate ethics laws. And yeah, there could be some actual law breaking with the way money was being funneled around, not just through him and his buddy, but also his PAC, because you're talking, $8,000 a month for Kent, $5,000 a month for his
Dorr.
buddy, and $100,000
for the PAC, which Dorr basically controlled.
Yeah. So I mean, you're not dealing with consequential amounts of cash there.
So
And
the
to
Senate
see-
Ethics Committee rules or laws that were broken were what?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out right now, and I believe the FBI is in on this too, because there might be some money laundering if the original complaint that was the Bachmann campaign was funneling money through a third party to Ken Sorensen to get around these ethic rules. And certainly, let me say, Kent Sorensen is not the only state legislator who buys and sells himself for the Iowa caucuses. It's the fact that he did it so stupidly on paper and so brazenly, plus with his background. And, let's be honest, Ken Sorensen and his radio benefactor sold him as not just another politician. That was part of the hard sell.
I agree.
With Ken Sorensen. And when the same way, if you are going to run yourself as a family values guy, you better not have a wide stance. If you run yourself as tell the truth and praise Jesus, and turns out, nope, you were only interested in the making money part, that's going to come back and bite you doubly in the behind.
Well, do you think this will come to a close before we get to the 14 elections?
I don't see.
Because he's up for re-election.
I don't see Ken Sorensen finishing out his term.
Really? You think
that would be? I think the powers that be, and again, with the billions of dollars at stake, with our first in the nation status, not just the money that's dropped directly in Iowa, but because of the legislative money that we get. I think the combination of having A.J. Spiker and the Ron Paul Goldbug Brigade heading up the Iowa Republican Party and the Ken Sorensen affair. And who knows what else this Sorensen affair is going to unleash. Go back a few months and it was just, hey, the Michelle Bachmann camp did something shady. Now it was the Michelle Bachmann camp did something shady and the Ron Paul campaign did something even shadier. Is there a third shoe to drop? I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. Again, I don't want to be the Fox News. We're just asking questions here, Guy, but how big does this story get? And by the way, it also leads into probably the highest profile Senate race of 2014.
Whitaker?
No, Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell.
And his campaign director being in the heart of all of this. So this story gets much bigger than just Ken Sorensen being a scumbag, because let's be honest, we all pretty much knew that was the case.
Well, so you say. The innocent
once a peddler,
until proven
apparently always a dealer.
Innocent until proven guilty. But I will admit that the paper trail and the audio trail that Craig Robinson at the Iowa Republican uncovered, it doesn't look good. And by the way, Craig will be on tomorrow on The View from a Pew with Tom Coates and I.
And I tell you what, you know what? There's not a whole lot that Craig Robinson and I agree on. But he is good people. And, he's what the Republican Party, not just of Iowa, but in this nation, need more of.
I agree.
And that, you know what? He wants to win. He wants to, succeed. But he's not above calling out the scumbags in his own party.
Other way of saying this, he's not going to cheat, so you can cheat and beat him.
No, not at all. He understands, and he's doing exactly what I've asked Republicans to do for years, and that is marginalize, get rid of, and ridicule the grifters, the con men, the rip-off artists that are at the heart of the Republican Party. Again, nature abhors a vacuum. Politics even more so.
It's not one party or the other. It's politics. It's Washington politics
but
right down to Indianola politics.
Who leads the Republican Party these days?
Well, again, it's not.
Can you name me someone?
No. And I can't tell you who leads the Democratic Party either.
I can. Barack Hussein, Super Allah Obama, peace be upon him.
All right, so if he's the example for the Democratic Party, then you guys are shot in the foot because he's a loser. He's a liar. He's got blood on his hands from Benghazi. He totally disregards the Constitution in almost everything that he does. He's above the law. Do you remember the Mitt Romney had the dog on the top of the station wagon that they made a big deal out of? Did you hear the latest today? Obama had his dog helicoptered in to Martha's Vineyard.
All right, but if Obama is so terrible, so awful,
Well, he is.
why
He's the
can't you
worst.
beat him?
Because we don't cheat.
No.
Yeah.
You couldn't beat him in the Senate. Couldn't beat him in the state Senate. You can't beat him for president. So if he's so terrible,
So if you have a bad
what does
guy
it say
that can't-
about you
Well, I'll
that
tell
you can't beat him with the American people?
Okay. Well, how about he's on the political evenness of steroids?
What is the political?
Okay, so if you're
equivalence
if
of
you're
steroids?
who's the guy in baseball right now that's in all the trouble?
A-Rod,
All right,
or
so-
Ryan Braun.
Who?
Ryan Braun, pick one. Bartolo
A-Rod.
Colon.
Okay. A-Rod has been accused of juicing. But you could say that about, well, who can beat A-Rod? A-Rod's awesome. I mean, if he's
A-Rod's
so
hip.
bad, how can you beat him? Well, why can't Barack Hussein Obama be on the same corrupt road that an athlete is on with
What
juicing?
cheating would you accuse Barack Hussein Suprala Obama, peace be upon him, of
First of
taking
all, he's
part
not a
in?
Muslim. So don't even.
Don't you're going to get hate mail. Don't you read the Fox Nation?
No, I don't.
Don't you read WorldNet Daily?
I'm not interested
Town Hall? Anything written by Todd Starnes in the
I'm
last
not
5 years?
interested in the extreme
Tea Party
right
Nation
or the
Okay,
extreme
that one you
left.
probably wouldn't read. But what cheating has he taken part in other than whooping you guys
Well,
twice?
there's voter fraud through
Where?
Acorn all over.
Acorn doesn't exist anymore.
I understand they don't anymore, but they did when he was elected in 08 and they did when he was elected in 12.
They didn't exist in 2012.
Not in that name, but those organizations were the same and they got
Acorn is
voter fraud.
dead. What voter fraud?
Oh, come on. Don't.
He won by 5 million votes. Are you saying that there were 5 million fraudulent votes
No.
cast?
No. Oh, he won fair and square.
Twice.
Well, okay. He won fair and square by lying to the American people.
What did he lie about?
He lied that he'd have the most transparent administration in history.
I would argue that, yeah, he could do better in that regard.
He argued that Obamacare would not be a tax, and yet they went before the Supreme Court and argued that it was a tax and therefore it was legal.
Now, that was more of Justice Roberts bringing up that it was a tax more than the Solicitor General. I mean, I was in D.C. for the arguments. I remember those good old days.
All right, let's...
Obama's Solicitor General got his butt kicked up and down those corridors.
Let's take our only break.
All right.
And then when we come back, I want to talk about weeding out hate, racism. Are you familiar with what? Well, you live in Grimes. Are you familiar with this thing that's going on with
Vanderplaat's living there?
No.
Oh.
With the Gorton house, who turned down a gay couple because they wanted to get married there. And now this couple lives have been threatened. There has been they've been targeted by the gay community. I want to talk about hate and this politically hot word spelled H-A-T-E, because this is the new one. This is the new one. All right. 29 minutes after the hour on the 12th day. We thank you for listening. We can't do this without you. We love this job, and we appreciate you being here. We'll probably do this again, but some of that will depend on you. This will be on Twitter, on Bradshaw's account. It'll be on my Facebook account. And if people seem to think that they enjoy this type of back and forth banter, as quite frankly, they did pretty heavily 4, 5, 6 years ago, as we were the #1 rated local talk show in the country, went up against the mighty King Rush Limbaugh. So, Des Moines, you've treated us well, and we appreciate you. When we come back, weed out hate, racism, and that sort of thing, live here. It's Bradshaw and Mac, or Mac and Bradshaw, powered by webcast1live.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of webcast1live.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait.
Howdy.
And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going.
The dawn of a new era begins. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All right, we're back 25 minutes before the top of the hour. If you are listening to this on a podcast, we appreciate it. Obviously, Frank's not listening because Frank would have certainly...
I wonder if Frank's still alive.
Oh, Frank calls in
I
my
hope
show.
not. Oh, that's too bad.
Come on, be nice to Frank. I thought we'd have Frank on as a guest one day, right in the studio. Have you ever met Frank?
No,
I haven't
I'm
either.
never going to.
Yes, you will.
I've
someday.
also never been stabbed, and I don't want to. So,
So if you're listening to this on podcast, just give us some feedback. Give us some feedback on Bradshaw's Twitter account or my Facebook. I don't do Twitter, and he doesn't do Facebook, so we've got both social medias covered. We enjoy this.
Who's got Maddie? You're on Google Plus.
We enjoy this, but we don't need to do it for our own satisfaction. We would do it as a service to our community. And I'd like to see us do...
Speak for yourself.
What?
Speak for yourself. This is all about me, baby.
I'd like to, I'd like to get involved in some of the local politics. I'd like to get involved in this city council race. And I'm trying to think, I can't think of his name. Diebel is on one side. And
Why'd you go after Skip Moore?
Skip Moore. That's
Yeah,
Skip
I don't
Moore's
know
on one side.
That one doesn't make sense to me. But
Diebel's on the other. I'd like to talk about some of the stuff that's going on in downtown Des Moines with the projects. I mean, I'm very thankful that we have guys like Uncle Bill Knapp, who's got the deep pockets that want to invest into our community. And probably Knapp is more genuine than anybody because, quite frankly, he can't take it with him and he knows it. But you've got a real
There's a fine line though between a Bill Knapp and a Brad Wesley.
You've got a real revolution going on in downtown Des Moines, and it's awesome. But there's just a lot of money, and a lot of money being spent, and somebody sooner or later has got to make that money back or pay for that money.
Well, and this is a process that started 5 or 6 years ago. You and I used to talk about this. It started with, Lord, we need this, and wait, it looks like we're starting to get this. Then, of course, the economy imploded. It's been kind of fits and starts, but looks to be kicking up momentum. Slowly but surely. I mean, Lord knows, is anyone who's put big money into real estate downtown made it back yet?
No, and that's my point.
Now, part of that isn't necessarily 100%, the market's fault. There were certainly some errors made. Pricing, location, from what I hear, running, the day-to-day maintenance of a lot of these downtown properties. I think they misjudged their market a great deal.
That's where Hubble went wrong on a lot. I mean, Hubble just lost this building, to EMC.
Big competition, though. You can get a lot of space for not a lot of dough in the suburbs.
That's right.
And for whatever reason, everyone who developed in downtown Des Moines seemed to forget that.
Well, and Maddie, if you want to do 2 pictures side by side with us so you don't have to go back and forth, that's fine. I just, you've got, and I'm not suggesting by any means there's anything illegal or even unethical. Please don't hear that. But you got a lot of big properties being shifted from this owner to that owner. You've got the Plex, the old convention center downtown, which is now going to become the YMCA. You've got the current YMCA, which is going to be razzed, and they call that a prime spot for a beautiful hotel or spa or something like that over there. You've got the Des Moines Register building, which sits on leased land, and the whole reason the Des Moines Register had to move was the family, and I'm trying to think of the name. They were famous jewelers here in Des Moines at the turn of the century in the 1900s. Anyway, they owned the land, and they couldn't work out a deal because they wanted their, and I don't blame the Register, they wanted their building updated. It was crap.
And they wanted to downsize the space, too.
Yeah, and nobody was going to take what was left over. So now you've got that building in play. And you've got the Western Gateway pretty much done now. Beautiful. You've got the East Village pretty much done now. Very well done. And now they're tackling this, the Rouen area, the Hubble area, the EMC area. They're doing the Walnut Street. You've heard about this.
I want more food trucks.
Well, and that's coming. I mean, they've moved the bus stop, DART. The beautiful facility over there off of Cherry Street. And so now
put the poor people way out of the way, throw them in back. Come on, admit there was some of that there. Let's get them out.
I'll tell you my personal experience. We've been here 5 years, and where we are located on the Skywalk is, right above Burger King. And so Burger King was right outside of the bus stop. And we have a large window here that we can look
people
out.
Watching.
Huh?
That Burger King is great. People watching.
It's kind of like watching the state fair. I mean, it's
no, I haven't seen a single Tweety Bird t-shirt or pair of jorts down there.
It's really strange down here on Walnut, and I can understand why the business operators and the building owners wanted that bus stop moved, because you couldn't put anything on the main level in downtown Des Moines on Walnut Street, and it would last, because it was usually invaded by people who are waiting for the buses. Sometimes those are homeless people, and I'm not against homeless people. I've learned a lot about homeless people since our days on the radio together. I have a heart for those people now, where before I didn't. But there was also a lot of petty crime. Talk to Walgreens. This Walgreens, I talked to the manager of this Walgreens. This was 2 years ago, probably, maybe 3. This Walgreens, out of all the Walgreens in the state of Iowa, had the highest shoplifting rate.
That's right.
And
were they stealing Tide?
I don't know what they were stealing.
This is one of those stories. American ingenuity at its finest. You can trade Tide for drugs.
Really?
So an entire
powdered or liquid?
Liquid Tide has become, because it has almost universal appeal, resell, unlike car stereos and iPods and stuff like that. It's untraceable. It doesn't have a serial number or anything on it. So there's almost a separate economy that has sprung up around liquid Tide. Now, mostly in large cities.
Not for drug use, for use as laundry soap.
No, for use as trade afford it. You can trade it for, $5 cash or $10 in crack or whatever the deal is. I know it's absolutely nuts, but it's no one's going to put Tide behind a plastic wall.
Right.
You're never going to have to show an ID
Right.
to buy Tide, or more likely to steal it. And so an entire separate barter economy has popped up around Tide liquid detergent.
I'll tell you something interesting on that same note is I like what I call noodles. And noodles is nothing more than spaghetti, okay, with some butter.
Okay, we're getting into Honey Boo Boo territory.
No. And Parmesan cheese and poppy seeds. So I go to Dahl's the other day at 156th and Hickman to buy poppy seeds. And I go to the spice rack, and guess what there are none of?
Someone ripped off all the poppy seeds?
Well, what happened is they now have it behind the counter that you have to go ask for because kids were stealing these 1 ounce or whatever they are packages of Spice Island poppy seeds because they heard you could get high off of it.
Oh, man. Just buy a bagel like everyone else.
All right. Anyway, so we got off on a tirade, but that's what we'd like to do with this show. And as I can say, I guess I can't speak for Bradshaw, but I don't do this for my own humor. I'm blessed enough to have several shows. I do enjoy working with Bradshaw again. He doesn't feel like he has to bring a loaded shotgun to work and keep it underneath the counter as much as he used to. But we need to hear feedback from you, so we appreciate you listening. All right. If there is a 21st century political movement in this country, it is the movement to put a big, bright light on hate, whether it be bigotry, whether it be racism, whether it be bullying, okay? There's this big, bright spotlight on hate. First of all, tell me where you come from in that battle. Is that a horse in your wheelhouse?
Yeah, I think what you're seeing is a generational change where a number of traditional wedge issues are either A, losing their edge. Gay marriage, for example. That battle's over. Now,
I would agree with you.
You may have the occasional, Imperial Japanese soldier found in 1965,
right.
Still manning a hut by the name of Bob Vanderplatz. Because there's still money to be raised off it. So there's still going to be groups like NAM or the Family Leader who make their living agitating. But that audience of people looking to be agitated about it is getting smaller and smaller. And in case of this issue, it is literally one that is dying off every day.
Now, do you think the issue of whether people of that sexual orientation should be allowed a state-sponsored marriage, or do you think that those people deserve across-the-board civil rights? I mean, you cannot...
I think they should get civil rights, yes. I didn't know that was...
Well, but I mean, a church cannot go to someone of color and say, you can't come here.
No, a church can. What a church is, if a church is dumb enough to actually say, don't come here because you're too blackety black, you deserve pretty much to have. But same way in a right to work state, right? I can fire you for wearing that shirt.
Probably would.
But if I'm dumb enough to say, you know what, I want to fire you and replace you with a younger, non-lesbian, if you are open enough to blatantly admit it, you deserve, the lightning bolt from Zeus.
Okay, but you have
you're
churches.
Going to get.
You have mainline churches who have said publicly, we will not marry a gay couple.
And that's fine, by the way.
And you don't think that should be changed?
No, that's their prerogative.
All right, now, is the basis of that...
By the way, there are churches out there that wouldn't marry me and the most heterosexual woman on earth, say Janine Garofalo. But they
Are
wouldn't
you still hung up on her?
Who doesn't?
Isn't she like 50 now?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the point is, they wouldn't marry us.
Right.
If there are many churches in Des Moines that I would walk into and say, I'd like to get married in this place. And they would say, go to hell.
No, they wouldn't say go to hell.
Well, they'd tell me I was going to
They'd
hell.
tell you what you needed to do to be able to get married.
But that's the point. They wouldn't marry me. And that's look,
All right.
if you're a church and you can avoid the politicking game, that should be your right.
Is the basis of that the not-for-profit? I mean, and what I'm sliding over to here is private business.
The basis of that would be separation of church and state.
Okay. So if I have, and we'll take for example something that's really happening. There's an old church in Grimes that a family bought years ago called the Gortz House, GORTZHAUS, 2 words. And they rent it out for wedding receptions and things like that. And there was a gay couple that went to them and said, we'd like to rent this place for our wedding and wedding reception. And they said, no, it's against my beliefs. And now they've been targeted by the gay community with really not very good stuff. But I don't expect anything different out of a, heathenistic liberal group of people who don't have any soul in their lives to be able to understand the word
Thank you,
tolerance.
Senator Grassley, for
Well,
that.
they don't know tolerance.
Oh,
I mean, there's 100 places this couple can go have a wedding reception.
But the Hotel Petit closing, they were looking for a spot. They found one they liked. And then they said, we want, and again, this is where if you're dumb enough to do this, to say, I won't rent it to you because you're gay. How are you any different than saying, how are you any different than a Woolworth's lunch counter saying blacks get out?
Completely different.
How so?
Because blacks don't choose to be black. They're born that way, and you do not discriminate against someone on the color of their skin. However, when you choose to go against biblical principles in your personal lifestyle, I have every right as a person who also has biblical principles.
But you've gone against biblical principles before.
Probably every day.
So what's the difference?
But I don't go to a church or go to a business and say, listen, you have to let me be a customer here.
Well, that same church and state says, that separation of church and state says, your biblical principles aren't a protected class.
Right.
Homosexuals are in the state of Iowa.
Right. So what I hear you saying is that's where this is moving. That only within the confines of a not-for-profit church will they be able to say no to gay people for participating, married, reunions, weddings,
They're free
whatever.
to say no to anybody. The difference is, are you dumb enough?
No, why do you use the word dumb?
Because
how
you
about
have
use the
to
word
be
brave?
You have to be stupid to do
how
this.
about brave? How about brave enough to stand up for
Bigotry
what you
isn't
believe in?
brave.
How about
Prejudice isn't brave. It's cowardice.
This isn't prejudiced.
Bigotry is cowardice.
This isn't bigotry.
It's not bravery.
This isn't bigotry. This is a
Bull Connor was not brave.
This is a worldview that is based in their single belief of a power greater than themselves, which they call God.
And not every believer in God, all right, is homophobic. Not every Christian.
It's not about homophobics.
Is homophobic.
Okay. So why, if all they're doing is looking for a wedding reception, can't they move down the road? This isn't the only place they could do it.
Why don't those people move to a different neighborhood? Well, that's a new and original argument we haven't heard in this country before.
Well, but there's
why
plenty
do
of
those
places.
people want to go to our school?
Okay, but why do they need to pick on this privately owned business?
They went, they were shown the place, they liked it. The couple had a little bit of an emergency because their venue closed.
Okay.
And they said, we like this and we would like to rent this. You are offering this public space for rent. We would like to rent it. And the folks said, no, because you're a protected class and I don't like you. Now, how stupid do you have to be to do that?
Okay.
That's my point.
Well, I understand.
And it's a perspective that is literally dying off. How old are the owners of this joint?
They're
Guessing
my
over
age.
60?
They're my age.
Yeah. That's pretty much the last demographic holdout.
But so what you
that is
want to
opposed
do
to same-sex marriage.
What you want to do is you want to eliminate my personal beliefs in my privately owned business.
No, you're allowed to have those beliefs, but when they become action, there's a difference between beliefs and discrimination.
But if your beliefs
when they become action, that's when the law gets involved.
But your beliefs are no good if you can't back them up with action.
Now, you're certainly more than happy in your own home and in your own daily life. But if you want to operate a business in our state of Iowa, you have to obey the law. Now, you're more than willing and more than capable of going out and trying to get those laws changed. But for the time being, that's what the law is.
When
Homosexuals are a protected class in the state of Iowa. You can no more say no girls allowed at my lunch counter than you can say no gays.
Do you remember we had multiple conversations on this years ago?
Actually, most of them were yelling matches, but yeah, conversations, I guess, were being
and one of the points that I made, probably poorly on my presentation, but I did make them, that this was the beginning of that term that you hate so much, and that's the slippery slope. And that I used to tell you that next it'll be pedophiles, and you would call me every name in the book to think that this country would ever have pedophiles as a protected class. Now, do you understand we've gone there?
No, we haven't gone to pedophiles as a protected class. Yeah.
I should have had this pulled up, but there is a...
Don't make me bring up Snopes, because I'll do it.
Okay, that's fine. You can do that. I don't know if I can pull it up here right this fast. There is a... oh, I know where I put it. Hold on. I put it right here. I'm sorry. I sound very unprepared. Apologize. There is a proposed bill. Let me get it up here so I can look at it intelligently. Using the same, this is from the Colorado Gazette, using the same tactics used by gay rights activists, pedophiles have begun to seek similar status, arguing their desire for children is a sexual orientation no different than heterosexual or homosexuals. Skipping ahead, in 1973, the American Psychiatric Association declassified homosexuality from its list of mental disorders. Now, in 2013, a group of psychiatrists recently held a symposium proposing a new definition of pedophilia in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders. The act calls pedophiles, quote unquote, minor attracted people. The organization's website states its purpose is to, quote, help mental health professionals learn more about attraction to minors and to consider the effects of stereotyping, stigma, and fear.
Okay, so altering the DSM, what does that have to do with making pedophiles a protected class?
That's the process that the gay rights group started within 1973.
Gay rights started well before then, came to a head at Stonewall in 1969 because up to that point, it had always been accepted practice to beat and hassle and kick him out of the way.
But in 73, the American Psychiatric Association declassified homosexuality from its list of mental disorders. That's what this group wants to do 30 years later.
And
to pedophiles.
They might. I'm sure there are people out there.
And what if they get
many
it done?
Priests.
What if they get it done?
Who would like to normalize?
What if they get it done? What will you say then? If they accomplish this and have pedophiles recognized as a mental disorder.
Well, it is a mental disorder, and I don't know if the DSM is putting a value judgment on there versus coming at it from a clinical or therapeutic angle. I think you have an issue there with motive.
Okay.
I don't think they're trying to mainstream pedophilia. And even then, I think you would have a very hard road to try to normalize child rape.
Your own president praised the bill saying, quote, at root, this isn't just about our laws. This is about who we are as people. This is about whether we value one another, whether we embrace our differences rather than allowing them to become a source.
What's the source on that one? Because there's I don't believe in any way, shape, or form that President Obama supports pedophiles.
Okay.
If strictly, even if he held that belief and had a secret NAMBLA card right next to his Nigerian birth certificate, he would ever literally say that in public. So, no, I don't buy that.
He said phony scandals.
They are.
Oh, my.
I knew Sean Smith, or Vile Rat as we knew him, one of the people killed in Benghazi. We learned, in fact, that more Occupy groups than Tea Party groups were picked out for additional scrutiny. And by the way, they should have been. In fact, there should be even more scrutiny on these groups looking for tax-free status than we have now.
No, I'm talking about the phony scandal in which the administration is supplying rebels with guns, and they got caught up when the government of Syria came in, or Libya, came in and caught them and destroyed the embassy and killed 4 Americans because they were running guns.
No, in fact, the Navy SEALs that were there were actually looking for surface-to-air missiles, man-pads. That's what they were doing there. And it turns out, and this is why it's so hard to get a straight answer, is that it looks like that consulate in Benghazi was nothing more than a front for the CIA, and whether it was a black ops site, we don't know, 2 blocks away.
Okay.
That was the issue with...
That wouldn't be a scandal? That'd be a horrible scandal if that was the case.
Oh, I'm not a big fan of
that would be no
CIA.
different than Reagan's Contra, Iran-Contra?
No, because Congress actually made it implicitly illegal to fund the Contras. That's why the Reagan administration had to find the backdoor route. Arming Iran was only a kind of a bonus.
But you don't think that's a phony scandal if we find out the CIA is doing that?
That I fully expect. I said the day after it happened that I thought the CIA was behind this. And by the way, it was confirmed later when Republicans, who had been briefed on this CIA site and not made a peep about it, started going gangbusters when folks at State started to talk around the issue in one of any number of public hearings.
All right, so what do you predict
about it?
What do you predict sometime probably after 2016, after Hillary Clinton has made her courageous comeback as the saver of all men?
Ding, 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 you just hit on it. The reason that the conspiracy-minded and are finding common cause with our friends on the right is exactly that, to ding Hillary, because it's a vain attempt, whether it's the slap Hillary game, whether it's, I think it was Fox yesterday saying Hillary Clinton's never accomplished really anything in her life. They're going to try throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. It's going to be the kitchen sink defense against the USS Hillary, which right now the Republican Party has no answer for.
Will she be the nominee?
If she wants it. And
so if she wants it, will she get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, for folks who have enjoyed Obama mania on the right, whether, again, it's birth certificates, Benghazis, the Alex Jonesing, and then the prison planeting of the GOP, you and I are old enough to remember how much fun the Republican Party was when the word Clinton is involved. Mm-hmm. The hate. You want to talk about hate? Mm-hmm. I mean, you got the Republican Party, unless they're trying to use him against Obama, hates Bill Clinton because he twice, did the unforgivable sin.
Right.
Beat them.
No, that's not the unforgivable sin. The unforgivable sin is that he lied.
Republicans are perfectly okay with that. They're even okay with sex scandals. Ask Senator David Vitter. No, he beat them. And back then, again, for all the Obama mania, and it has been a hoot to watch, nothing drives them crazy like Bill Clinton. To them, he's the anti-Reagan.
What happens to Barack Obama after his second term is over?
He goes on, I think, and this isn't a slide against Jimmy Carter at all, to make Jimmy Carter's, who's done great things post-presidency, to make that look like child's play. I think he's got the organization. I think he has the access to capital to really do great things. And unlike a certain grand old party we won't mention here, 4 years, after his presidency, we will see him at the Democratic National Convention. We will see him on stump. So another thing to think about in 2016. Let's imagine
because he's a rock star or because he's a great president.
Because he's a good president. I don't know. The thing keeping him from being a great president, I think, is picking fights, and I don't mean that in a schoolyard bully sense, but in a let's have the fight. We may not always win. We may, get a black eye every now and again, but we should have the fight. I think he's ceded too much ground to do nothing Congress, and certainly, timid Democrats who I've always railed against certainly aren't helping his cause.
Will his legacy be Obamacare?
Yeah, I think that'll be a big part of it.
No matter how it's
obviously
implemented or repealed, or
that's not going to get repealed. It's not going to get defunded. That's just a
pieces
fantasy.
of it.
That's just a right-wing fantasy. It's meant to. It is.
Let me make a note of that.
Why have there been 40 votes to repeal Obamacare with Obama as president and a Democratic Senate? It's nothing more than play acting, and to be honest, it's an act of a Republican Party that doesn't have anything to run on.
All right.
40 votes. They could actually be doing something, but instead they're holding 40 votes to repeal Obamacare.
I guess you have to realize that it's important to 50% of Americans. 50% of Americans say it's a bad thing.
Nah, they actually like what's in the bill. You ask them the individual components of
Nobody
Obamacare.
read it yet.
All except the mandate, the thing that the Heritage Foundation said was required to make it work, and even going back to 2007 was seen as the personal responsibility solution to healthcare in this country. That's the only thing that doesn't poll well. Everything else people like, and this is what Republicans are afraid of. There are many Republicans who remember the good old days of the 40s and 50s, where the Republicans spent their time railing against the New Deal, and they got whooped until Eisenhower said, guys, it is what it is, and you can, tilt against all the windmills you want. It's not going anywhere.
I'm sorry. I
Throw
lost
you
my
off there?
Yeah, you did.
Eisenhower always does that.
Eisenhower always does that. That's
Blame the military-industrial complex.
right. All right. Well, so when's your next day off? Do you know?
I don't.
Okay.
But we have to do this again.
Let me know.
We didn't even really get to the hate section.
Well,
I mean, obviously, yeah, don't mistreat a bigoted old couple who doesn't want to rent to gay people. Treat them nicely and with the same respect you would want to be treated. But that doesn't mean they get the right to be bigots in a public space. But that's neither here nor there.
Well, and remember, bigots and religion has always gone together on the left.
No, in fact,
that's the favorite word you like to throw around from the left is bigots.
No, we throw it at bigots. There's a difference.
Well, bigots is relative.
Again, the biggest fan of Jefferson's concept of separation of church and state were the Baptists, because they had been the whipping boys for way too long.
Yes, that's true.
And they said, thank you for not shutting us out.
All right. We look forward to getting back together if there are different subjects that
we'll do this again in a couple weeks. I'm more than happy to stop by.
And it'll probably always be about the same time, don't you think?
About 1 o'clock.
Yeah. And you'll notice that we are beginning to fill in the 1 to 3 o'clock hour, which is when Fallon gets done at 1 and I start at 3 with the radio program. We're beginning to fill in shows. Tomorrow, do you know who Brandon Findley is?
Name sounds familiar.
Tina Haas.
Why do I know that name?
Well, she's a singer. She's a wonderful singer.
The Brandon.
Well, I know him from Facebook. He's Tina's husband.
Know him from Facebook.
But I posted several weeks ago, right after the Paula Deen situation, that I think we could pretty much declare racism as a national problem is dead.
Seriously, spend 5 minutes on Fox Nation, Town Hall, World Net Daily, any Breitbart, any of their sites. Just go read the comments. Go to any right-wing news site article about Michelle Obama and read the comments. For those that have actually left the comments on, because most of the time it gets turned off because even those guys know what's coming.
What does that have to do with
it's
racism?
Monkey and Mooshell and Big Lips and Watermelon and every racist trope you can think out there. Public policy polling just did a poll in Georgia. And among Georgia Republicans, Paula Deen is more popular than MLK.
Well, my point was that there are always going to be individuals that are racist. There will always be individuals that are bigots. But as a country, the policies that we've enacted, the personal expression as a country, the overall push is that we're not racist anymore. Now, you don't have to believe
I think that's what racists tell themselves, but they still don't want those people moving onto their block.
Right. So what has happened because of that is Brandon and I have gotten together, and about every 2 or 3 weeks, we do about an hour and a half on racism. Akeo has joined us. He'll join us again, different people. And so we're having these conversations on Tuesdays. So hopefully we can begin to fill in with some good quality local shows in that 1 to 3 o'clock
It's
hour.
like the Anti-Mitch album. It's Tuesdays with Whitey.
Cracker. I prefer Cracker, please.
I love my favorite during the whole Paula Deen thing was, did you see the CNN segment? Which word is more offensive? Honky or, and they wrote honky on there, or an apostrophe.
Yeah.
Like if you can't even say the word, you can't even print the word on your screen.
Right.
It's obviously more offensive than honky
Correct.
and cracker and any of the other terms.
I'm assuming though that you don't agree with what happened to Paula Deen. Something she said a decade ago in a private conversation.
It wasn't just the private conversation. Again, it was a whole series of events. Individual incidents don't interest me all that much. We all have a bad day. We all have a slip of the tongue. It's the patterns that get me. And when, first of all, again, she would let her brother run a restaurant like some sort of plantation, like some sort of feudal lord. And it wasn't just a conversation from a decade ago. In fact, I think from people in media, I think there was a lot of she finally got outed. It's one of those worst kept secrets. I would put it with the Anderson Cooper Gay. Put that in a similar drawer. Like, it's one of those things that everyone around him knew, but just never came up and never got talked about.
So you're saying that everyone thought that Paula Deen was a racist, but
people that dealt with her,
knew.
Yeah, it seemed to be. I don't think there was anyone like that. There wasn't anyone shocked at these revelations. But here's the other flip side to that. Southern and her generation, and I say this as someone with extensive Southern roots, she's not an anomaly.
No, she's not.
Part of it is being cultured that way and growing up that way. Growing up through the civil rights movement left a lot of Southern whites bitter to this day.
And you're saying that they don't have a right to.
Oh, they absolutely you can be as racist as you want to be. No one's banning white hoods, and as long as you keep it, fire safety and in your own yard, burn all the crosses you want. In fact, I like it when the Paula Deens of the world say their piece on camera. It lets me know who I'm dealing with.
All right.
And it's up to me to choose whether I want to buy her cookbooks or not. And how many, sponsorship deals has she lost?
Oh, it's tragic.
But she's still more popular in Georgia among Republicans than MLK.
All right. We're going to cease this at this time. And when
this was fun. Thanks for having me on.
You bet.
I don't know if I ever said that to you before, but thanks for having me on. This was fun.
You probably never said that in a lot of years.
Yeah, we'll go out of here cursing under my breath, but no, this was a good time.
Well, we'll do it again, and we appreciate you listening, and we'll let you know by tweet and by Facebook when these shows are coming up, as well as we'll post them on Twitter and Facebook so you can podcast them. And the most important thing is that we get feedback from you, so make sure you get a hold of us. Are you still radiobradshaw@gmail.com?
Yep, radiobradshaw@gmail.com and @radiobradshaw on Twitter. Stop by, say hi.
Maddie, thanks for sticking around and producing, and we'll see you at 3 o'clock live today with Recovery Monday, brought to you by Powell CDC, here, powered by webcast1live.com. Thanks for listening.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.